Good evening, honorable members. If the door can be closed so that we can start with our meeting. Honorable members, you are all welcome to this meeting of the Subcommittee on Rules. I just want to indicate to all of us that the secretary to this subcommittee, Mr. Perrin Handik, lost his father yesterday morning. That is why he's not with us here. Mr. Handik, those who know him, he worked in Parliament for quite some time. Yes, there's Mr. Handik, the senior, so he passed on yesterday morning. So we will be given updates on what will the funeral and memorial service. So, honorable members, before we start with our meeting, can we observe? Honorable Lozi?
No, Chair. I wanted to say I know the deceased because in the major review of the rules, he was the lead writer in the process. So I don't know if there's any strict procedure, but it would be prudent that you communicate our condolences since his last work was specifically in this committee with regards to Parliament. I know that he's got a longest, I think he was a Secretary of Parliament at some point. So, but personally, because we've worked with him, please communicate our condolences to Perrin and the family. I would be very interested in the funeral details and everything. So that will be my second request, that please do share that communication specifically to the communications of this committee. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlozi, for raising that issue. We will make sure that we send the message to Perrin and his family, our condolence message as this subcommittee. We will also share the information with regard to the memorial service and funeral service of Mr. Handik the Senior. Indeed, you reminded me that he was very instrumental in the review and also the authoring of the rules of this of the National Assembly. Honorable members, can we please observe a moment of silent prayer in remembering Mr. Handik the Senior? Thank you. We may be seated. May his soul rest in peace. Honorable members, we have an agenda before us, and I would want to believe that all of us who received the documents, the invitation to this meeting and the documents were circulated on Friday, and also there are submissions that were made. First one was that of the EFF, which was made some few days ago, then followed by a submission by the DA, which we made sure that we shared with the NA table to circulate to all members, including the chief whips who are not represented in this committee. We therefore, as the ANC, we had our submission, which we believe was also circulated to all the chief whips. So I'm sure there's no one who didn't receive those submissions, the three submissions. One from the EFF, one from the DA, and one from the ANC. So, okay, by noting, I can see that we all received these submissions. Honorable members, we will then proceed in this manner. Let's start with the apologies. Are there apologies? Mr. Klaso, apologies that you received?
No, ma'am.
No
Chief,
apology.
No, Chief is not here. No apologies.
Thank you. Anyway, it's a standard agenda item that is always there. Honorable Ngubane?
Yeah, Chair, there are apologies from our side. The MK member to Zuma Sambudla is not present. He's still delayed. She's still delayed somewhere.
Okay. Those apologies are noted, but just to remind ourselves, honorable members, this is a subcommittee. We don't need a quorum. Members, when they are here, we start with the work of the subcommittee. And also, we don't take decisions in this committee. And as and when we get a new item, it is always referred to members to go and consult their political parties. So that when we do our work, when we take our work to the Rules Committee, that work is not returned back to this committee for failing to consult each other. So I believe today we will finalize everything. Whether we agree or not agree, it's immaterial because we don't take decisions, and all views will be reflected in the report. So, honorable members, is there anyone who would want to adopt, to move for the adoption of the agenda? Honorable Stole?
Honorable Chairperson, first of all, I never received any information. It is my first time receiving this information today. So I don't know which email that they're using.
We are sorry about that, Honorable Sithole. Maybe it's because when we started as a subcommittee, there was someone else other than yourself. They should have shared the documents with yourself. So we will correct that. The table will correct that to make sure that they put you on the mailing list. Honorable Okamp.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Firstly, just to come back to apologies. I saw on the attendance register that Mr. Horn's name is still on the attendance register, but him being elected as a House Chairperson is not going to be forming part of this anymore. It will be myself and Honourable Butlani. If I can then go to the approval of the agenda, I would just like to inquire with regards to terms and definitions. Will that include the definitions regarding the current Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance, which in the previous Parliament was basically known as the Chief Whip of the second largest party? It wasn't said Chief Whip of the opposition, but I would just like us to discuss the terminology with regards to the Chief Whip of the second largest party as well. Thank you.
Honorable Okamp, the definitions include those subheadings that we had previously, and I believe that you would want to, in your presentation, it's also there. Yes. So they just didn't want to put it item by item, but it covers everything.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Is there a seconder for the adoption of the agenda? Honorable Makobela.
I second the move for the adoption of the agenda.
Honorable members, in that order, I would want to ask honorable members, Honorable Ndlozi, to make I'll give each member 5 minutes per party to present their submission. I don't know whether it's you, Honorable Ndlozi, or it's Honorable Ntlangwini. Then you will be followed by Mr. Okamp, Honorable Okamp, then Honorable Mahlaule.
Chair, just before I proceed, a quick guidance. You seem to have itemized in terms of the agenda. So how do you want me to handle it? Our presentation on the first item. Because as far as I can see, what we have adopted will save a lot of time.
Okay.
If we go, what's the first one?
Yes, let's do item by item.
All right.
Yeah.
So the first one is
Is speaking and sitting
speaking and
arrangements.
sitting
Yeah.
arrangements. All right. So in terms of our document, that will be on page 7 for the benefit of all members. Strictly here, there is the matter of sitting arrangements is just convention. It's not explicit in the rules. And I don't have to canvass the rest of what we wrote there except to go to the actual proposal. The proposal is written in bold on page 7. So I hope in the document that's circulated, because I have my original one, it's page 7 as well. Let me just verify. Is it page 7?
Yeah.
Okay. So we propose a new rule that must read as follows. Upon election of the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the President at its second sitting, the Assembly must designate the sitting in the House to reflect a clear demarcation between the ruling and opposition benches. A party or parties with the representatives in the National Executive must occupy the right-hand side of the House from the direction of the Speaker. A party or parties belonging to the opposition must occupy the left-hand side of the House from the direction of the Speaker. In an event that the sitting of the Assembly takes place outside the designated Parliament precinct, to the extent possible, sitting arrangements must be in consideration of sub-rule A and B above. The simple point here is that you would see that I avoided explicit use of the terminology government, because in the Constitution, the broad idea of the National Executive includes cabinet, ministers, and deputy ministers. And I think it's in strict adherence to the constitutional phrasing of what is understood as government. You will also notice that much earlier in the document, there is obviously a definition of who the opposition parties are, and that opposition is part of a constitutional prerogative. The Constitution elevates the idea of the opposition. In fact, our Constitution doesn't envisage at all a situation where there wouldn't be multiple parties rather, and it doesn't envisage a situation where there wouldn't be opposition. But as to where this rule would be placed in the rules, it doesn't matter for us, because it would be a completely new rule. So it doesn't matter where you place it in the current chapters of the rules. It can be a chapter on its own. It can be a rule within some rules, but we would propose that it reads in that way. It's broad enough. It will stop making confusion. The last thing to say is, of course, the insistence is that must be done after the first constitution of Parliament, the first sitting of Parliament, in which you elect these people. Because until you elect the president, and the president designates national executive, you wouldn't know which party is opposition and which party is not. You couldn't do this on the first sitting. So that lacuna is fine. So if the presidium or members of the the table staff as they are called, in the first sitting, or the Chief Justice, let's put it that way, the Chief Justice constitutes on the basis of who got the largest votes. So we will sit according to who got the largest votes, or we would sit, we don't think that is immediately important. We don't even have to sit in any particular order. But once it is determined who is in the national executive, and that will only happen in our determination, if I had spoken to the earlier parts of the document, only after the constitution of the national executive, I may vote, for an example, for the president, but not be part of the national executive as a party or as an independent, in case independence would at some point be part of the National Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlozi. Honorable Ndlozi, you talked to the sitting arrangements only. Can't you get into the speaking arrangements as well, so that we save time?
Okay. We had already, as noted in the minutes, we are for this. It's like an option B in relation to what was proposed. Our original document didn't speak to the speaking order. I'll tell you why. We would leave it as convention. We are not passionate on it being an explicit rule. But should it be a rule, and we'll leave that, we don't have any, we're flexible. Should it be a rule, okay, let me read this option. 1 second. Option B in the proposal of Hendrik. Castle, do you have it? I just want to put it on the record again. Yes, it's this document. So it's the document titled Select Matters Before the Subcommittee on Review of the Rules. In that document, it's not paged, the pages are not numbered, but number 4 of B. Under B, sequence of speakers and sitting arrangements. So option B says, President or minister be followed by the leader of the opposition or member from the largest opposition party, and then the other parties on proportional basis. This we had already proposed. That's why Hendrik put it here. This is we would persuade members of the committee to go for B, should it be an explicit rule. But even if it should be a convention, and as you would know, there was a debate, there was an explicit delineation, or rather, under what conditions that applies. So when it comes to motions, notices of motion, you don't need this. But for us, it must universally apply on debates in the plenary, including on declarations, we would say. So for instance, at the moment, you know what is painful? Not painful, but it doesn't bode well for a vibrant parliament that embraces multi-party democracy and in particular opposition. So at the moment, you've got the first 3 political parties. If we're strict, it will be 4 speakers representing parties that are the ruling party. So if the president speaks and then it becomes ANC, so it becomes DA. Or normally it will even be, so the opposition is only going to come at number 4. So after the president speaks, or after the national executive speaks, leader of the opposition, because we are officially opposing the national executive. they must speak. Then the normal order can follow, meaning it will be ANC, DA, EFF, like that. We want to elevate, as the Constitution does, the question of the opposition. And that is covered by option B. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndlozi. Honorable Okamp.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, our presentation that we made covered the following aspects, and I'm going to start then with seating arrangements and after that speaking arrangements, but there's other aspects that I've also got to touch on. With regards to seating arrangements, Honourable Chairperson, I think that there is a type of broad consensus around that the governing parties sit on the right-hand side of the Speaker. We have in our document just stipulated there that it must then be done in descending order from biggest party in government to the smallest. And on the left-hand side of the House, or on the left-hand side of the Speaker, the parties not represented in government also in descending order from largest to smallest. I think that is enough said about that from our side. We will support that. We are fine with that. With regards to speaking arrangements, Honourable Chairperson, it is true that we sit now with a government of national unity, and we must come to a point where we must look at who speaks after the President or a Minister, whoever spoke. And in our presentation that we made, we said that there are two options, as was presented by in the previous committee as well. And the one is to stay with proportionality. The other one is to allow the opposition to speak after the President in an instance like, for example, Sona. From the DA side, we do not have a problem with that. It is fine, we will accept that. There is a caveat, however, and that comes, we cannot just accept everything that is on the table without having our proposals also listened to. And that brings me to one of the other aspects in this document, and that is the definition of our chief whip. Now, in the parliaments before this parliament, you had the chief whip of the majority.
Honourable Okamp.
Sure.
Let's go point by point.
Okay, that's fine.
Speaking arrangements and seating arrangements. Thank you.
That's fine, Madam Chairperson. I thought you want me to present our whole document. With regards to speaking and seating arrangements, I have said what we want to do. We are fine with that, and we will abide then by the rest of the committee. Thank you very much.
Honourable Okamp, sorry. Just want to check, so you're saying you're going either way with the speaking arrangement?
Now, with the seating arrangements, I think we are quite clear. With the speaking arrangements, we are fine with the proportionality as well as the other one. It's not really a big issue for us.
Okay.
We will abide by what is decided by the majority on that.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Honourable Okamp. Honourable Mahlaule, ANC.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will save time because some of the matters have been ventilated on the other side, and we agree with. The speaking arrangement, the position of the ANC is that it must be proportional. That's our position now. I don't know where we will end, but our position now is that we want proportionality to apply as it has applied before. As well as the sitting arrangement, we want to agree with the Democratic Alliance that the opposition party sits on the left of the Speaker, proportionate to how large they are. And then on the other right, you start with the largest party in government, and then you spread across until you get to the last smaller party. In a case where the side where it's on the right and you have exhausted the seats, because we must also be alive to that. it can then go to the other side, but on the back, not on the front, where the largest opposition party will because it's inevitable that you will have to exhaust this side and then get to the other side. So you are forced to have people sitting that side. So that's what our position is. Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mahlaule. Is there a party with a differing view from what the three parties have presented? Honorable Ngubane?
Chair, you just said with a different view. I was about to say we concur with the proposal from EFF, especially on the seating arrangement as well as on the speaking arrangement on what they are proposing, where the emphasis is that the once the president speak, the leader of the opposition be the next one that follows. Chair.
Is there another party? Honorable Ghana, followed by Honorable Stole.
Thanks very much. Chair, the sitting arrangement, I'll take it as agreed to, because we actually had agreed to it the very first subcommittee. So let's accept it as such, and then it just needs to go to the rules and then it gets applied. I don't think there needs to be further debates on who sits in the immediate left of the presiding officers. Let's accept it as such. So on the speaking, I mean, like, I don't have a particular problem with either, but I think it's important that we kind of think of when the president speaks. Usually there's no immediate response. So, for instance, the presidents will speak on Thursday. There will not be a response then. The response comes the following day. Now, the question is, and maybe to understand, is it to say the person that opens the response to the president is the leader of the opposition, or the person that opens the response is the member of the executive? Because it's not one and the same thing. Because if you take it as it's written now, it implies that the very first person that speaks the following day or immediately, because even if the response to the whether it's the presidency budget vote or the state of the nation or opening of a parliament was to happen on the same day, it will not be in the same sitting. It will have to be two different sittings. It can be a sitting that's called in the morning, it concludes its business, which is the delivery of the state of the nation. If you want, as there was some proposal earlier, that the debate happens on the same day, then you need to call another sitting for that particular purpose. So is the intention that the person that opens the response to the president's address is the leader of the opposition, or is the proposal to say immediately after let's say in the current, unless if things change in the last 8 years that I was not here, Chair, you can forgive me. But what happened is that you left the president on a Thursday delivering the state of the nation, and then the following day, the first speaker will come from the executive, and then the second speaker in how things were will be the leader of the opposition. So if the proposal will be that as it has been, that the first speaker comes from whoever part of government, whether the government designate a minister from whichever party that's in the executive, to open the debate, and then the second respondent to the state of the nation or the president's address is the leader of the opposition, then that's something that I don't think there should be difficulty in agreeing to, but it might very well require a bit of thinking on whether we are saying that the first speaker in the response to the president's address is the leader of the opposition, because it has never happened, as far as I remember. The member of the executive used to open the response to the president. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ghana. Honorable Stole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And first of all, we do agree with the seating arrangement. There is no problem on the seating arrangement. But, Honorable Chairperson, I support the issue of professionalism.
Your voice is fading. Can you please speak to the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. I say, first of all, we do agree the seating arrangement. And then the other one is that the speaking arrangement should be a proportionally. And another thing, Honorable Chairperson, that I'm trying to check, are we talking about what is going to happen on Thursday in City Hall? We are talking about something that is going to happen in City Hall, because the sitting in committees are not the same, like what is going to happen on Thursday. And Honorable Chairperson, another thing that I'm trying to check in this house. Let me say the DA is the largest party, is the second largest party. If they take a decision that they are pulling out from the GNU, are we again going to sit down and make another arrangement? I'm trying just to open the scope of thinking of this thing. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mahlaule.
Chair, I do feel that I should make this point to amplify what I was agreeing to and what I submitted. So you see, there are three spheres of government. There's the judiciary, there's the legislature, and the executive. And there's a reason why when the president is elected, ceases to be a member of the legislature, because he leads another arm of the state. Now, when the president comes and opens parliament, he speaks as an executive, not as a member of parliament. And the ANC, the DA, the MK, and the EFF in parliament have to react to what the executive is saying. Now, the proportionality that we are talking about is that the ANC still is the largest party, and that's why it must start its reaction to the leader of the state. And then you follow in terms of proportionality. Because we must avoid to make this thing one and the same thing. It's not. The president is not a member of parliament. We are reacting to him. And therefore, the largest party, proportionally, must start reacting. And then the second one comes, and then the third one comes in that order. Because if we want to mix the president and parliament, legally we are doing something wrong. I just thought, let me amplify that point, Chair.
I want to apologize, Honorable Ndlozi. Can I start with the other ones? I didn't see your hand. Honorable Vessels. Who else would want to speak? Oh, Honorable Vessels.
Thank you, Chairperson. I wanted to leave the point, but I think that is exactly the problem with the definitions. If we define as executive, then we have that problem. And I heard what the Honourable Ndlozi said, and he almost convinced me. But I was now convinced of my previous point when the ANC made the point of the executive. Because the fact of the matter is a government is formed, and the government that is formed does go in both arms, in the legislative and in the executive. But that, because the executive the head of the executive is chosen or voted for by the legislative. That is why there's a government formation. So there's, in practical terms, an agreement of government. Let's call it in this case, in our current situation, we have an agreement of intent that formed the government of national unity. In other governments around the world, you'll have a coalition agreement that forms a government. And parties in the legislature then vote together to elect the president, for instance. But that means all those parties that are party to the coalition agreement is in government. But they do not necessarily form part of the executive. And to say that a party that is party to the coalition agreement is an opposition party because it does not form part of the national executive will be wrong. And we should think in the long term about this. We are going to have a problem if we define it in terms of the national executive. If we say government in our terminologies throughout, then this is also solved, because then we say the executive introduces something. Let's say the State of the Nation address. The largest party in government then has the first bite in the debate, followed by the leader of the opposition, the official opposition, and then proportional from there on. But if we mix it and we say executive and we go for this, then we're not really moving further from and moving towards something that's really giving effect to a multi-party government and an opposition that should play an official opposition role. Because then we're just going to be in a space where the largest party, the ANC, is going to be the first speaker. Then it's followed by the Democratic Alliance, although they form part of government. And then whoever, regardless of who the official opposition is. And in parliamentary terms, in convention, it just makes sense in a debate that the official opposition has one of the first or actually the second speaking turn. So I agree with the ANC to a certain extent that the response should firstly be to by the largest party, by the ruling party if you want, be it in a multi-party formation or whatever, but whoever they decide speak on their behalf is the first speaker in response to the executive. So it's government replying, the ruling party in the legislature replying, if you want to put it in those terms. Second, the leader of the official opposition, and then proportional from there on. That would be my proposal, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Wessels. Honourable Ndlozi.
Thank you, Speaker. We do not make rules for present circumstances. So you've got to suspend what has been happening in the last 30 years, what is happening now. Elevate our strategic thinking and coining rules at the level of universals. And you must think of all possibilities and say, how would a rule apply? That's the first thing. So don't think about now. There are circumstances under which the largest party, the second largest party, will not be government or will not be in the national executive. You've got to think of all possibilities. It's not because of what has happened now, we are forced to elevate our conventions into universals. But you've got to also think about the implications of Section 57 of the Constitution. Think about, why does the Constitution of South Africa, at a constitutional level, these are not rules. So, for instance, the only office bearers mentioned explicitly in the Constitution, one of those office bearers is leader of the opposition. What was the thinking? What is the spirit? What are we trying to achieve by explicitly in the Constitution mentioning leader of the opposition, if that leader of the opposition is not going to find...
We are still coming there, Honorable Ndlozi.
No, you'll hear, Speaker, Chairperson, just wait. Because implied in the speaking order is that leader of the opposition must speak after. That's where I am, it's precisely where I am. Why does the Constitution do that? It's because the spirit of the South African Constitution, already in Chapter 1, tells you that it envisages a multi-party democratic system or a multi-party system of democracy. Such a multi-party system of democracy, part of its expression is this concept of the leader of opposition, who, by the way, we don't oppose political parties. In parliament, there's political parties that have representatives in the national executive. The Constitution doesn't use the term government, it uses the term national executive. And that national executive is defined clearly in Chapter 5. Opposition politics, both philosophically and by conventions of the world. Everywhere in the world, we oppose the national executive. And that must find expression in an envisaged house sitting, in an envisaged speaking list. You elevate opposition. We have not been doing that. In fact, the document prepared by the table staff gives examples of the UK. In the UK, leader of the opposition, regardless of the numbers, speaks immediately after the national executive. In Kenya, it's what you are proposing now. And then the second point is proportionality in relation to time does not change. You will still have the same amount of time that is proportional to the votes that you received or to the seats that you have in the House. But how else must we respond to Section 57, which impresses upon us that there must be a designation of leader of the opposition? Those things you are saying of second largest party, what, don't matter. What matters for Section 57 is this elevation of leader of the opposition. You'll see when we come to definitions of the opposition, what is the significance. So our persuasion of all of us, you know what is great, what may help is put yourself in the shoes that one day maybe this ANC, which has 40% as the largest, may be in the opposition, may not be in national executive. In fact, it's possible that the leader of the national executive could have been a person with only one seat in the National Assembly. And then they get the members of the executive from all parties. What happens under those conditions? What becomes the speaking order? So in terms of the elevation of the rule, it's above the current circumstances. These are called debates. So the president speaks, then there is a debate. You can't for the first hour have people who are just agreeing. That's why the Constitution elevates it elevates a person who's going to introduce a counter-argument so that there is a debate. There's no debate if there are no opposing sides. So in this case, the largest political party that is not in the national executive, that is not represented, gives us leader of the opposition, and leader of the opposition speaks first. The final thing is in relation to the Honorable Ghana. So the State of the Nation is actually a single sitting. It's not, it could happen under one day. You don't read it as 3 different sittings. It's the State of the Nation. There is a presentation of the actual then there is a debate, and then there is a reply. Its order is the same as the order of any other debate. So don't think about those 3 days as like the order of 3 days, and it's 3 different debates, 3 different, it's a single session. It is arranged like that. You will see that even in the mini plenaries, the current convention, the minister speaks, the chairperson of the committee speaks. And then, ordinarily, the chairperson of the committee will be the ANC, or will be somebody in the national executive. But it's possible a chairperson of a committee may not be from a party that is represented in the national executive. But in the budget debates, we are considering the committee report. And only the president doesn't have such a rule. He doesn't have a committee. That's why his debate does not have the chairperson of a committee presenting. So in the mini plenaries, the chairperson would still go first. Then, because he's presenting a report, then a party from the opposition benches. You make the rule like that. It's universal, it's broad, and the table staff will be able to arrange the speaking order on the basis of a principle, not circumstances, individual circumstances. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlozi, Honorable Mahlaule, Honorable Ghana. Then we need to wrap up on this one.
So just one point, Chair, which Honorable Ndlozi is making, and it is my considered view that is agreeing with me, is cementing what I was raising before. So he makes an example that one day it may happen, as we envisage this multi-party governance, it may happen that, and I want to make an example, Ghana, don't take offense, it may happen that Ghana becomes president. And he's not coming from the ANC, and the ANC has got the largest number. Whereas he is not part of parliament. He belongs to the executive. He's a leader of the executive. Call it whatever you want to call it, whether it's government or executive, it doesn't matter. But the ANC, as a party in parliament, will want to react to him, and it's not given that the ANC must agree with him. It doesn't have that obligation to agree with him because they are in government together. So I'm arguing that a fair chance, as we envisage, like he is saying, we must look at the future. We must envisage that we will have a president who is not coming from the largest party. And the political party in parliament must be given an opportunity to make the first reaction to what the leader of government would have presented. So currently, you envisage that you can't have political parties agreeing, 1, 2, 3, 4 agreeing. It may change, and you called us to envisage the future. It may happen that in the future, the first political party to react does not agree with the president, the second one does not agree with the president, and all of them, by the way, do not agree with the president. Now, the separation of powers, going to the future, where we envisage multi-party governance, proportionality will help us, will save us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mahlaule. Honorable Ghana, followed by Honorable Ngubane.
Yeah, thanks very much. So there's a portion, and by the way, and might very well be that the secretary might have to respond, Honorable Ndlozi, on whether the debate and the address is one sitting. I don't think it is. If it is, I will withdraw my earlier point. What I do know that in the past you'll have 2 days of debate. What was continuing was the debate. The State of the Nation, the address itself, it's a separate event to the debate. The State of the Nation is called by the President. The debate is called by Parliament. So, but I'll leave that to Honorable, to Mr. Kaso to then clarify on whether it's one sitting that's continuing for 4 days. So if you were to, and that's why even in the your earlier submission, Honorable Ndlozi, it was not so much to make it a rule. It was to say, as a best practice, it ought to be. The question is, should we, if we codify it, what is the impact? Because the moment you codify it, it might not agree tomorrow if something happens. But then if you make it a convention, say for instance, to the effect that the first, let me just give an example. To say the first responded when the debate is called, it's the party with the largest number of votes, followed by the leader of the opposition, as a convention, not so much as a written rule. So it's something that we agree to, it's something that we apply. Because once you start making it a rule, a different arrangement can make for a different speaking order. I think more we are speaking of the speaking order in this instance. If we were to have a situation to say as a middle ground, to say the first responded when the debate, whether it's immediately, it's 2 days later, it's 5 days later, it's the party in government or in the executive, because you said there's no government, so let's take the executive. And then immediately thereafter, we abandon proportionality, because that's what in essence the debate is. It's whether we should follow proportionality or abandon it at some point, create a special provision for the leader of the opposition to then come in. Now that we are entering a space wherein you might not have a party with a majority, it might very well be that we don't need to codify it. In the same way that there are other ways of doing things in Parliament that are not codified. We can accept it as such without a need to codify it. There will be a challenge when you codify it later on. It will work for the next 5 years, but then the different arrangement thereafter will necessitate that you change that arrangement. So which means you are forever changing the rules depending on the electoral outcome. So that will be my submission. But maybe a clarity on the state of the nation and the debate thereof, as whether it's one sitting continuing or it's different sittings. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ghana. I want to take Honorable Ngubane. Mr. Klaso will respond after the short break, because we are going to take a short break. Tea is outside. We don't want it to be cold. After Mr. Ngubane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think the spirit that the EFF is trying to bring is that we are here, Chair, to propose. We're here to convince one another of the right thing. The spirit that comes with the proposal that the leader of the opposition must be the next one that speaks after the president is that we want to empower our people out there who have listened to the president speak, and they want to hear a different view. We don't want a choir. We don't want the president speak and then the other choir that is in GNU or in executive, Chair. It's as an example, Chair. I'm not, apology if the choir sounds a bad word. I'm just trying to say the grouping that agrees with one another. That's just from the spirit, Chair. To say, I'm not putting it in a very, derogative way. I'm just trying to say, when people are in the same groupings, they seem to, agree with one another. And people have already heard that in public. They want the president to speak and to hear a different view. it's best that when the president speaks, a different voice must come and people hear all angles. And then we move from there on the proportionality after that. I think that's the spirit that the FF is coming from, and that's what I want to propose, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members. On item 1, we have an agreement on the seating arrangement. Then on the speaking arrangement, 2 parties are agreeing that the option B that is presented has been submitted by the table is taken, meaning that immediately after the president, then they should be the leader of the opposition. Then the other parties are saying that let's retain what we currently have, proportional. So as you know, honorable members, that in this committee, we don't take decisions. Decisions will be taken by the Rules Committee. What will happen is that both views will be reflected on the report of the subcommittee to be taken to the Rules Committee. So the Rules Committee is the one that will take decisions on these matters. We are fine, Ms. We are clear, honorable members. Thank you very much. Let's break.
Chair, I did propose something different, a variation.
Okay.
If that can also just be captured, because it's not completely proportional, but it's also not exactly option B.
Okay. Proportional, but not exactly. Option what?
Meaning
Can you please summarize it so that it can be captured, so that it can be captured correctly?
the largest party, then the leader of the official opposition, and then proportional. That's my proposal. Understand?
The largest party, then leader of the opposition.
In current terms, Chairperson, it means that it would be the ANC, then MK, and then proportional. That would, but that's my proposal on the table.
Can I, if you... No. Chair, firstly, because I see the difficulty.
You don't go back.
Okay, I'm not going back. I think that's a reconciliatory view. I think it reconciles both positions.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I'm saying that, firstly, let us say it shouldn't be a rule. It must be a convention. And secondly, say the convention should be largest party in the executive, then leader of the opposition. It's fine, but in a mini debate, you see, you'll have to apply a different, so because we're just thinking SONA here. In a mini debate, it means after the chairperson of a committee, a party from the official opposition. Because it would have been the minister, the chairperson of a committee. I'm saying that in those plenaries, the third speaker must be a person from the official opposition. Then the proportionality follows. Because in SONA, it's different. So you want on the second day to be the African National Congress, leader of the opposition. Like that. Well, I'm fine with that option.
Okay, Mr. Tasso, want to respond?
Just want to be clear, Chair. So SONA, let's say SONA is today, the President gives the address, and then, Honorable Ntlozi, you're saying then the next day, the largest party starts, and then leader of the opposition.
Largest party in the executive.
Yes.
In the executive.
Yes.
So in this case, it will be the ANC. If the ANC comes this side, it will be maybe the DA, whatever the case might be. But once the leader of the national executive speaks, you can give the largest party represented in the national executive, and then leader of the opposition, because If tables are reversed, Xaso, the ANC would have been the official opposition. Then it must accept that it was going to speak precisely in that order, which would have been unfair. So I'm completely reconciled. In a mini debate, though, just emphasize that the chairperson of the committee, after he presents the report, somebody from the official opposition, then DA, like that.
Honorable Matlaule, Honorable Stole.
Then you put ANC, which is wrong. Because the person is the chairperson of the committee that speaks first to present the committee report. It's just I've not been in plenaries where the chairperson of the committee is, for instance, FF Plus or someone else. That order at the moment is not proportional deliberately because we're doing something different there. So the minister speaks, it must be the chairperson of a committee presenting the report, then opposition. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlozi. Honorable Matlaule, Honorable Stole, in that order.
No. The last point, I have difficulties with it. I thought it was reconciled properly at some point, but at the committee level, where the chairperson is not from the ANC, I'm having difficulties. Maybe you shocked my system about that the ANC must come after the leader of the opposition, or after the chairperson, the ANC, and then let's agree on the reconciliation, but this one we take it to the rules committee. Maybe we would have agreed at that time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, honorable members, there are different views on this one. The other one was trying to come closer to that one. But what we are trying to say, we are shocked as Honorable Matlaule is saying, but this is not the end of the discussion. All views will be reflected on the report. Then it will be taken to the Rules Committee. Maybe by that time, we would have found one another with regard to this. Let's close it on that one. We will not finish discussing it today. We still have a bite in the Rules
Chair,
Committee.
you have... No.
So I think, Chair, we're very much close to eliminating two options. We're very, very much close, and it might very well be that we don't need to submit all three options. If we accept it as a convention, accept it as Honorable Vessel as submitted, and Honorable Ndlozi seconding, what created a bit of systems being shocked and so forth, it's the mini plenaries. I think let's deal with the bigger plenary, agree on the bigger plenary, and then what then goes to the Rules Committee is the bigger plenary, the main one. Then if there's an opportunity to then go in with time, because you see, like now, the mini plenaries are concluding on Wednesday. There will not be an opportunity to change much, but we'll have ample time to start thinking of how mini plenaries should be configured the next time we have mini plenaries. But for the bigger plenary, the main one, I think we have found each other. As a convention that can then go to the Rules Committee that then informs the speaking order. So let's shake hands now. We are close to shaking hands. Let's allow the hands to be for people to shake hands, and then we then go to the Rules Committee with that view from a convention, starting to build a convention, because it's not a convention until it has been practiced. It's a proposed convention. It can't be a convention until we have practiced it. It must first be practiced over several times, then you say that it's a convention. Even
Thanks, Honorable
Dr.
Ghana.
Sophia agrees.
Honorable Vessels? Oh, Sitole, then you'll follow Honorable Vessels.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, actually, I'm little bit confused. Why I'm saying that is that because we have Chairperson of DA.
I didn't understand that.
We have Chairperson of Mrazi Mzansi from Scopa. Are we meaning that after the Chairperson of DA introduce the budget, it means now the party that must follow is the leader of the party, or is the leader of the majority party? I'm trying to check the logic on that one, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Vessels.
Thank you, Chair. I think with other plenaries, and it's not only mini plenaries, it's also, like the Honourable Ndlozi also said, if there is a second reading debate, unless it's a money bill, but any other second reading debate, a minister has the first opportunity. So that's a member of the National Executive. Then it is, following convention, the chairperson of the committee, tabling the report, discussing the report. Then I would support it that it's the leader of the opposition or the official opposition. But then it should be the largest party, meaning the ANC, then the DA. So it's not that the ANC doesn't get a bite in the debate. It's just that it's the committee chairperson after the minister, then the official opposition, and then the ANC. So the ANC can, in all practical terms, then respond to the official opposition. It's actually a very nice space to have on a speakers list. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Hlophe.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I've been listening very carefully. I think I'm persuaded by Dr. Ndlozi as well as what Mr. Vessels has said, insofar as it relates to SONA. When we talk about many plenaries or budget votes, I also agree that different considerations must apply. The other day I attended a budget vote relating to the Department of Justice, OCJ. After the minister's presentation, it was the DA. All that the DA did was just to endorse what the minister had said. And I don't think that's what the public is interested in. The public is interested in differing views completely, immediately after what the minister has said. So I do support the proposal made by Dr. Ndlozi that budget votes and mini plenaries must be treated differently. And at the same time, I agree with what Dr. Ndlozi says, as well as Mr. Vessels, that for purposes of SONA, we're dealing with different considerations. It would be a speaker from the ANC, as well as the leader of the opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hlophe. Mahlaole, you are the last one.
Thanks, Chair. So I'm quite happy with what we resolved on in terms of the SONA. And then going to mini plenaries. When the minister speaks and the chairperson of a portfolio committee introduces the report, is a report of the portfolio committee, then the next person to speak should be that of the ANC. Where the chairperson is not ANC, then we can do what Honorable Ndlozi was proposing. Because if we agree that the chairperson is a chairperson of a committee, is a chairperson of the DA, the ANC, the Freedom Front Plus, everyone, we can't then say on the reaction of the report of the chairperson, it is the opposition, the leader of opposition that starts with the debate. Same principle we used there in the president, who is the president of all of us. But a party must react to what would have been submitted by the chairperson of a portfolio committee. Now, it can't be the opposition that starts. It should be the ANC, and then you go to the proportionality. Because if we define how Honorable Ndlozi is saying that the chairperson is a chairperson for all of us, then that writing of saying ANC will no longer apply, because what do you write where the DA is a chair? Yeah. So I'm suggesting that let it be the chairperson of all of us who is introducing, and then the ANC reacts, and then the opposition. No, a national executive.
Honorable members, I think on that one of SONA and the opening of parliament, we are in agreement, all of us. Where we don't agree is these ones of mini plenaries and these other debates. I think that part need further processing. Do we agree that we leave it at that? Thank you very much, honorable members. Let's get something to warm us up. Then we will move to the next item on the agenda.